Mr. Robert John McBride, our witness today on the 20th of January 2026, are you ready that we proceed? Advocate Bongiwe Mkhize.
Chair.
Honorable Nomvalo, when your fellow members come back, just whisper to them and tell them that in these chambers there is a customary practice that when a person makes a maiden speech, it's not being disrupted. So Advocate Mkhize is making a maiden presentation of evidence. She's the one that is now leading Mr. McBride in the presentation of evidence. And this is a maiden occurrence since she joined us. And when she finishes, I want us to applaud her the way we have applauded others. And she can only do that with our cooperation. She needs 2 hours to do that. I'm giving you, Mr. McBride and Advocate Mkhize, until 5:30 to conclude the proceedings. It is in your hands.
Thank you, Chair. Good afternoon, Mr. McBride.
Hi, ma'am.
Mr. McBride, if we can just turn to page 20 of your statement.
Yes, ma'am, I have it.
Okay. The topic that we are going to be dealing with now, in leading your evidence, relates to the Phahlane task team. And where I would like us to pick up the evidence is at the point at which you had now returned back to IPID following your suspension, which was set aside by the Constitutional Court as unlawful. And this would be around November 2016. Is that correct?
That's correct, ma'am.
Okay. So if you can just take us through why this team was called the Phahlane task team, and what was the purpose of this team?
So at the time when I returned back to the office, 2 of my main investigators had been dismissed. That is Matthew Sissoko and Innocent Kuba. And we then had to scrape up what we had to get investigations going. So when I came back, we had to deal with a number of complaints. And one of the complaints was about the Phahlane matter. And I had asked Mandla Matlango to deal with the case. And later on, Temani Binang and Mancha Rapeso also joined.
Okay.
And then later on, Mandla approached me and said that, look, Cedric Nkabinde is up here. This is the guy. He works very well. He's up on an investigator's course. Can you consider putting him to help us? We're short of manpower. And and it colloquially became Phahlane Task Team. That's how it was.
Was that, Mr. McBride, was that the practice perhaps within IPID? Why this one? Why was this one specifically called task team? How were the other investigations classified? How did you
So this
name
was
them?
yes, ma'am. It was a systemic corruption. Number one, it from outside looked like a systemic corruption. Number one. Number two, it covered at least 2 provinces, which was Gauteng and Eastern Cape at that stage, and it was also involved both national and provinces. But it's just in the same way like we had Marikana Task Team, and that's before I arrived. So you had Khamanyani was heading Marikana Task Team. It's before I arrived, and he headed it, and it was called Marikana Task Team, and they were dealing the tragic Marikana incident.
Okay.
So that's how this got the name. I would imagine there were others also. So inevitably, the name changed. Sometimes it comes I-View Task Team, and someone else leads it, and so on. So it wasn't a hard and fast rule. It was not part of the structure. I suppose in some ways it's not unlike PKTT. You can establish it, you can disband it. The difference is it was made internally by us. There were no ministers involved in it, no higher powers that were involved in approving the PKTT. So part of the complaint was...
Mr. McBride, sorry, before you go to the complaint,
Yes, ma'am.
you mentioned that Cedric Nkabinde had come up on secondment. Where had he come up from?
He had come up from KwaZulu-Natal. Yes, that's right.
So he was part of IPID KwaZulu-Natal?
That's correct, ma'am.
As in what position?
He was an investigator, but he wasn't in a senior position yet.
He wasn't.
A principal investigator, I think that's what they called it. Yeah.
Okay. So you also mentioned, if I can just take you to page 73 of your statement.
Yes, I have it, ma'am.
Yes, you deal with it there. Perhaps you can read that into the record.
Mahlangu indicated to me, that's Mandla Mahlangu, that Cedric Nkabinde, whom he knows and is good at investigations, had been seconded on an investigator's training course in Gauteng from KwaZulu-Natal. Nkabinde joined the team investigating the complaints against Phahlane. The task team was colloquially referred to as the Phahlane task team by members of that team.
Okay. If you can just perhaps, for the purposes of the committee, is it standard practice within IPID that members would be seconded from various provinces? Or, I mean, how does this, is it an official thing? Or do you just call your mate and say, you can join our team? How does it actually work?
No. Ma'am, it's when there's a need that arises for more members, but the national office cannot deal with it, and it crosses over more than one province. So complaints on Phahlane came from, at various stages, from Eastern Cape, and came from Gauteng, and of course, there were national complaints also. There were not enough resources. I mean, I think later on we established a unit that was part of the formal structure called National Special Investigator Task Team, NSIT, that was called, became part of the structure. After I'd left, it was disbanded, apparently.
Okay.
I didn't go and do a media conference.
Thank you, Mr. McBride. And what were you actually investigating in respect of General Phahlane?
Okay. Ma'am, there were 2 main issues. The first one was a purchase of defective investigative equipment. So instead of specialized brushes to dust the fingerprints. It was like paintbrushes. The paintbrushes actually wipe off the fingerprint. So and also the chemical, something was wrong with the chemical. So there are a number of issues. A lot of that is contained in, I think, in the exhibits, I'm not sure. But, and then also that at the forensics lab where Phahlane was, and this is, the complaints are emanating, I think, from even before I arrived at IPID. So it involved exhibits going missing, like rhino horn, narcotics, illegal narcotics, going missing, and instead of, and some of those narcotics, according to the allegations, found their way onto the streets. And when they were on the streets, it was marked destroyed. That was more or less the complaint. So so the complaint involved first I think it's a Colonel Munsami, I'm not sure of the surname, and then pop crew members, and also Paul O'Sullivan had laid a complaint.
Okay. If you can perhaps then go to paragraph 74 of your statement.
Okay, I have it, ma'am.
Okay. Are those the allegations that you are referring to?
Yes, yes.
Okay. You mentioned that there were narcotics and rhino horns that were on the street. What did that have to do with General Phahlane?
Oh, he was the head of the forensics laboratory, which confirms something is what is alleged. If it's to make sure it's not baby powder and it indeed is cocaine or heroin, then the job of the lab is to double check that and confirm that indeed it is. But to happen that or large amounts on a number of occasions of the consignment that was confiscated lands up at forensic lab instead of a sample, and that would go missing. This is the report that was given to us, the allegation.
Oh, okay. In respect of the labs, because you were the
Yes.
head of forensics.
Yep.
And there's another complaint that I see at 74.1.
Yes, yes. So 74.1 relates to Phahlane's house, that the house is valued on the market at 8 million and it could not have been afforded by Phahlane. But also that there was initial reports that Phahlane had received money from a company called Criminalistics and also investigating vehicles in Phahlane's possession, which according to him were either purchased, owned by him or sponsored for the use. These had not been declared in the gift register. And secondly, is one aspect perhaps I picked up in one of the comments during his testimony is that, oh no, he's just buying and selling cars. But the key issue with that is from memory, is the amounts to acquire the car and ludicrous amounts to dispose of the car. So gratification, in our view, is now linked to the cars that are donated or bought, in inverted commas, and how they're disposed of. So that is the allegation. That case hasn't come to court yet. I think they are still busy with it, but I don't know the full details of it.
So, Mr. McBride, when General Phahlane came before this commission last week on
Yep.
Wednesday, he informed this commission, this committee, that he was trading in cars. So what in essence was happening is that he would purchase one car, and when he trades it in for another, it would remain in the register as though he still owns the car that has now been traded in. Are you saying that that is inaccurate? the evidence that he gave this committee?
My understanding where the loophole is in that version of events is the amounts used for vehicles on the reselling. So vehicles are sold at more than their market value and more than the resale value. Sometimes exorbitant amounts above it. So that's what we looked at. Yeah,
Okay, but that you said is still an ongoing investigation.
indeed, yes.
So we'll park that for now.
Thank you.
If we can then just turn to RJM 13, Annexure 13, which is at page 599.
1 second, ma'am. I have it, ma'am.
Okay. Could you read in paragraph 75 of your statement? You say that Kabinde took the lead on these investigations, and you attach RJM 13.
Indeed, ma'am.
What is that document in front of you there at 599?
So the document at 599 is Cedric Nkabinde opening up the case against Khomotso Phahlane, and he is there as the investigating officer. And he activates the criminal investigation. And later on 601, I think it is, he also makes a complaint with the affidavit.
Okay. Before we get to the affidavit,
Yes.
if you look at page 599 at the bottom of the page, on the right, left-hand side is a date.
Yes, ma'am.
Could you read that into the record?
2011-2017.
So this was in 2017, on the 20th of November.
Yes, ma'am.
And at Brooklyn Station, which is at the top left-hand corner, is where this complaint was laid by Cedric as the investigator, as you have mentioned.
Yes, he's the,
So if you could then turn to page 601, which forms part of the same annexure.
yes, I have it, ma'am.
What is that document?
Well, that document is Cedric making an affidavit in support of his assertion that there's a criminal case to be investigated.
Okay.
So he's supporting the opening of the case, and this is in effect his A1 statement.
Okay. At the top of the state of that document is writing in manuscript. What is that? What should we make of that?
So that's a Brooklyn case number, according to this, 565-11-2017. So the case is open in Brooklyn, and it's a 565th case of November 2017.
Okay. So in this document, Cedric signed this affidavit. It is commissioned at page 603. And he starts out this affidavit by stating his full names, his personal number, and his phone number at paragraph 1. At paragraph 2 of the document, he states the purpose of the charge, the purpose of the complaint, rather.
Yes, ma'am.
And it reads, on 2017, on the 12th of October 2017, an alleged fraud and corruption was reported by the source that the former acting national commissioner, Lieutenant General Phahlane, initiated a procurement of software of media monitoring and a secure encrypted mobile communication system to prevent mobile cell phones to be intercepted, which was not part of the motivation, which worth the total of 54,229,000 change. Could you speak to that? What was that referring to, and why did Cedric Nkabinde, as the lead investigator, file this complaint against Lieutenant General Phahlane?
From memory, this equipment was supposed to be, I think it's called Daedalus, the name of the software of the program. And it was supposed to have been delivered and money was paid for it, but it never arrived. And the supplier of that, I think, is the same Ibanatan Kistia. So in other words, it was not a purchase because nothing was delivered, but money was paid. That's the issue. So it was a fraud and corruption. Yeah.
And what was the explanation given for that? SAPS has paid. Was this at the time when Lieutenant General Phahlane was the acting commissioner? What was his position at the time?
Yes, that was his position. I'm trying to see here, 12, from corruption is reported. Yeah, so it refers to a time when General Phahlane was acting national commissioner, and this stuff was ordered by crime intelligence.
My understanding of how procurement works within government is that you use supply chain. So this would have gone through supply chain, and you make the allegation that he bought this equipment for over 54 million, but in fact it was never delivered.
That's correct, ma'am.
And there was no accountability for
No
that.
accountability for that.
Okay, and then we move on. And what has happened to that investigation?
I'm not sure if it's the same one, depending on case number. It would be the one that is perhaps before court now in November. If you allow me for a second, I can double check for you the case number.
Yes, you may.
Just bear with me, please, ma'am. Second.
Chairperson.
Yes, ma'am, indeed,
Yes.
it's the same one. It's 3rd to 4th of November to 4th of December. That's when it'll go on trial.
Does that form part of our bundle? Is that in the exhibit file?
My understanding is yes.
Yes. Just for the record, I think it is annexure 20, RJM 20, and it's part of the exhibit bundle, but we will not go to it now. Then you moved on to investigate the second matter, which was another complaint regarding General Phahlane. So if you can go to paragraph 77 of your statement.
1 second. Yes, ma'am, I have it.
Okay. From your statement, you say that in January 2017, a search warrant was executed at General Phahlane's home. Could you take the committee through that complaint?
So information was obtained and statements from a service provider that they had installed a surround sound theater and hi-fi or some electronic equipment, and they had installed it as a service provider in the general's house. And later on, we found out sometime afterwards, the general seemingly paid the company back. Now that doesn't take away the crime, because it's like you've taken money out the till, then you put the money back. It doesn't take away the first offense. So Phahlane filed an application to challenge the search and seizure warrant. So who was there was the service provider themselves pointing out what they installed in the house to confirm it. And when we filed our answering affidavit in justification of the search warrant, Phahlane didn't move further with the case of objection to the search warrant, of getting it set aside. Only later on, after Nkabinde wrote to Minister Cele, did Phahlane file a supplementary affidavit, which was supported by Nkabinde's affidavit. That's a year later from where Nkabinde opens the same case himself. So it's a year later in which he's joined the other side. And I must add, probably for a brigadier's post. In fact, if I carry on further, without going through each and every one of these, he was given a post in the National Commissioner's office at some stage. And it came to the notice of the public and they objected. And then the then General Sithole then could not allow it to happen, because I think they did some due diligence or something, perhaps late. But they then found out indeed the guy is not a trustworthy guy. And then he was not allowed to take up his appointment.
Thank you. Mr. McBride, I don't mean to interrupt your train of thought, but you said it was a search warrant at his house because of a music system, a hi-fi kind of. What was the purpose of going to his house?
Because it was installed inside his house by the service provider, by a service provider who had paid for it. And the service provider so a related contractor who had paid for the system installed it. So it needed to be identified who installed it, where is it, and what is it. That's why the guy had to accompany the investigators.
So it was for the purposes of identifying that in fact the sound system is the one that was installed, that was paid for by the service provider.
Yes, yes.
And that is at paragraph 77 of your evidence. Now, to that end, Mr. Phahlane then has a problem with the fact that you've come to his house. What was the step thereafter?
Sorry, ma'am, could you repeat that, please?
If you go to your paragraph 78.
I have it.
Just for the sake of completion of this part, because you make, in your evidence, you state that he had received this money from service providers.
Yes.
But we don't know that he had, how do you know that he had received this money from service providers? Besides the fact that you've now got a search warrant,
yes,
and you are able to identify
yes, yes,
the music system. But how does it come to you as IPID, not you personally, but you as IPID, that it's service providers that are in fact paying for...
Yes, so there were whistleblowers, including the service providers, and including the estate manager. Once the estate manager appears to support Phahlane on a number of issues, he's actually leaking information to O'Sullivan in any case. So That's how O'Sullivan knew so much about what's happening. Yeah,
Okay. So at paragraph 78, you say that Phahlane denied that he had received kickbacks from SAPS suppliers. Another search and seizure operation was conducted at the premises of FDA. This initiated litigation. Oh, before I continue, who is FDA or what is FDA?
FDA is a company owned by Keith Keating, which supplies software systems, crime registration system, forensic data analyst. That's what FDA stands for.
And what was his connection to Mr. Phahlane?
Well, according to initial statements, and General Phahlane, yeah.
Okay. And this ended up in court. It says that this initiated legal litigation proceedings
Yeah.
by Keith Keating of FDA to
Yeah.
challenge the warrant.
Yes.
At Annexure RJM 15, which can be found at page 620.
320.
Yes.
Okay, 1 second, ma'am.
620.
Have it now.
613.
I think it's
613.
second. Almost there. So it's a judgment in the High Court of South Africa, Gauteng Division, in which the FDA and Keith Keating, the owner, challenged the magistrate's decision, challenged the Minister of Safety and Security, that's a term he uses, and one of the Hawks officers who was assisting IPID in the investigation because of shortage of manpower, sorry to use that term. Sissoko had approached Libya to provide assistance. So it was a joint operation between IPID and the DPCI. So that was it. So that's why they and a Colonel J. deployed. So that's what happened. Yeah.
Okay.
So the judgment basically in effect says that if there are minor technical difficulties or discrepancies in the execution of a search warrant, it's not of a substantial nature, the search warrant is then permitted and is not set aside. So a lot of documents of the on the different transactions relating to different purchase of goods and the hiring of FDA and FDA actually is like the sole supplier of SAPS. So SAPS is held hostage by FDA. So SAPS had to pay FDA now the other day like X amount of million because they withheld payment at some stage.
What does FDA supply to SAPS? If you say that they're the sole supplier to SAPS and they get paid in the millions, what is it that they actually supply to SAPS that other service providers cannot
It's
supply?
software to deal with the evidence and exhibits or related to criminal evidence. Yeah.
A software?
Software related to the storage, classification of evidence. Yeah.
I see.
Yeah, I think also they're part of the crime scene investigation also. I think there's one case where there was like ultraviolet lights or something that something was not was not right about it, yeah.
Yeah. So in essence, in this judgment, Mr. Keating, together with other applicants in the matter, were challenging the search and seizure operation at their various entities.
Yes.
And at page 247 of the bundle is the order by Colopin J. What was the outcome of that matter?
Well, the outcome is that, let me just find it again, 6:2. So the outcome, in effect, was that the search warrant was executed in accordance with the law, and the evidence will be admissible in court.
Okay. If we go to page 619 of the same judgment,
I have
just
it
to
here.
place this matter in context. Judge Colopin discusses that this warrant was issued on the basis of an affidavit deposed to by the third respondent, Colonel Kobus Rulefse,
Yes, sir.
who describes himself as a colonel in the SAPS stationed at Directorate Priority Crime Investigations. While the matter of whether the document that I have referred to constitutes an affidavit or not has been placed in dispute for now. Colonel Rulefse states that the warrant is required in an execution as its execution is likely to give material and relevant information relating to the alleged offenses of fraud and or theft and or corruption and or racketeering and or money laundering. He then makes reference to an investigation involving the former acting national commissioner, Lieutenant General Johannes Khumutso Phahlane, on the one hand, and John Diale and Jolanta, a name I cannot pronounce at the moment, in what is described as an alleged, I'm told it's Komodolowitz. I'm going to take that, but I don't have any Polish relations. So in what is described as an alleged corrupt relationship, alleging the receipt of cash that Lieutenant Phahlane would have received from Crime Tech to fund the financing of his private dwelling. Now, you mentioned earlier in your testimony that part of the things that you were investigating under the Phahlane task team was his home that was worth 8 million rand.
Yes.
Could this be relating to the same dwelling when they say dwelling, because it has not defined which dwelling that is?
Yes.
So at paragraph 74.1 of your statement.
1 second, ma'am. I have it here.
You may read it into the record.
The case to be investigated by this task team was in relation to the construction of General Phahlane's 8 million rand house at Sable Hills Estate, allegedly paid by funds received from SAPS service providers.
And this case has to do with, you've told this committee that it is Keith Keating who brought this matter before Judge Colopin.
Yes.
In the Pretoria court. And you've also led evidence to the fact that Keith Keating owns a company called FDA.
That's right.
And he's also the sole supplier at SAPS for technology and being at the crime scene first
Yes, yes.
and so forth. So could this Keith Keating and this paragraph 12 be speaking to what you are saying at 74.1?
If we go back and remember.
Particularly the last two lines of financing General Phahlane's private dwelling.
Then it's reference to the Sable Hill dwelling, yeah, Sable Hills dwelling. Yes.
And this would not have been the first complaint regarding General Phahlane's home. There were other complaints that came before you. Were there any other complaints that came before you at IPID regarding General Phahlane's home?
I'm not sure off the top of my head which complaints came in, but the main complaint came in from. So on Phahlane was first there was a Munsami, there was Pop Crew, and then there was Paul O'Sullivan, who had laid a charge whilst I was in suspension. And when I had returned, wanted to know where the case is. And he had taken the time to look at, from his background, and he attaches an affidavit to the complaint. The rate at which the building goes up, mention is made to there was a bond, but the bond was never drawn on. And the bond was for something like 600,000 or something, and could not really build 8 million rand house.
Okay. You've mentioned that there was a complaint by Paul O'Sullivan as well as Pop Crew relating the same property in question.
Not specifically the property,
Yes.
I can't remember specifically.
Okay. If I can just take you to paragraph 69 of your statement.
Okay. 69. O'Sullivan had already started looking at the rate of speed at which Phahlane's Sable Hills house had been built on from a Google application, as well as a cost breakdown. O'Sullivan also had evidence to support suspicions that Phahlane was receiving kickbacks from SAPS suppliers. An example was a man named Keating, a SAPS supplier who owns a company called FTA. I will now demonstrate what the investigators revealed about Phahlane's conduct with respect to SAPS suppliers.
And then if I can take you, if I can then ask you to turn a page back at page 65. Sorry, paragraph 65, page 18.
Yes, I have it, ma'am.
You can take us through your evidence.
On or about October 2016, after my return to work, I met with representatives of Pop Crew, and they made a similar complaint as that made by O'Sullivan. The complaint included aspects of malfeasance at the SAPS forensic lab, stores, including but not limited to exhibits going missing, such as suspected illegal narcotics and rhino horn. Normal procedure would be to report this to the head of national investigations, who was Sissoko. However, they both had been dismissed at the time. I suppose that is Sissoko and Kuba. Attached here is a copy of the Pop Crew complaint marked as Annexure RJM 11.
So if RJM 11 is at page 594, if you can turn there.
1 second, ma'am. It's Colonel Munsami.
What is that document? If you can just perhaps define.
It's a complaint forwarded to the National Commissioner by Colonel Munsami, complaining about irregularities within the Division Forensic Evidence. In terms of date, there's just a fax on there of, I don't know where it goes to, it's 08/2014. I don't see his date on his signature.
Okay. It says that at page 596, it reads Commander Local Criminal Record Center, East London.
Yes.
Why has this document come from East London?
Off the top of my head, I think they experienced problems there also from East London to the National Forensic Lab.
Okay. And then if you could turn to the page, to annex to RJM 10, which is at page 542.
One second, ma'am.
Chair. I've had my hand up for a while.
Yeah, I have said that the advocate is leading evidence for the first time. I'm only going to take questions thereafter.
So you're saying that we're not doing questions of clarity anymore?
We will take them thereafter.
Okay.
Yes. 542. Are you at 542? Yeah, 542?
Yes, yeah,
542.
I have it.
Okay, what is that document?
It's a sworn statement by Paul O'Sullivan. It gives the ID number and explains what it's about. And it gives a long explanation about its issues. This is, it is commissioned on 25th of February 2016. I'm still on suspension then. I'm not sure where he commissions it. I'm trying to find a
What was the
Sampton.
what was the statement prepared for?
For the complaint to Khamanyani.
To Khamanyani.
Yes.
At page 546, it is dated and commissioned, and this is on the 25th of February 2016.
That's correct,
Is
ma'am.
that correct? Okay. It is fairly small, the writing.
Yes, yes.
Okay. At paragraph 3, in fact, we can start at paragraph 1 of this complaint.
Yes, yes.
Just to put it into context, it says, I'm an adult male forensic consultant and confirm that the information set out on SAP 3MA is true and correct. The purpose of the sworn statement is to open a criminal docket in respect of offences and corruption, money laundering, and racketeering. My allegation is that the conduct of one General Johannes Phahlane smacks of corruption and cronyism, and only a proper in-depth investigation will reveal the truth. I therefore hereby, and then he sets out his complaint in detail. Yeah. He then comes to you. If you can just tell us firstly, put this document into context, this complaint, and what happened to this investigation once he had complained.
So this investigation was made to Khamanyani whilst I was still on suspension. And what I understand happened is Khamanyani informed Phahlane there's an investigation against him. And seemingly also, I found out more recently, Khomo, the infiltrator from crime intelligence, was given a task of investigating this case. So in my absence, Khomo is inserted into IPID, and Khomo is now given a task of investigating Phahlane matter, and it links up to a case with identical case number, 2 cases which cancel each other out. This is only found out when I come back. But indeed,
Before you, Chairperson, before you continue, Mr. McBride, you just went through that very quickly. What do you mean 2 cases cancel each other out? So what I've understood at the moment is that there's a complaint against General Phahlane.
yes, yes.
Yes, if you can just then take us through that step by step so that we can understand what you are
So on
explaining.
this specific occasion, I'm not sure, but there was a series of early closures or special closures. That's how it was called in IPID. I think that has been revised since this incident, which means people can close cases before the investigation is finalized because they don't fit in the mandate or the one is a duplicate of the other. And then ordinarily you'll have one continuing while the other one is removed. But in this instance, you find both were getting removed and closed in special closure.
How was that happening?
Two duplicate cases. And it was also to push statistics. So,
Is it I'm sorry to just interject.
okay, ma'am.
Is it common practice that in instances where you have a duplicate case, you surely would close one case of the duplicate and leave one open? So how did this actually happen, that both cases would end up being closed?
Well, it will be different people opening the two cases. And then the one saying, but this is exactly like the other. So it's two, we have case control number, CCNs, which is like the CAS dockets. When we take the information to SAPS, because that's how the system is set up, we then open a CAS number. So on this one, it appears that from an analysis, so someone complained also that there's special closures are going haywire. All of this in my absence. And it was then at the end of that year or the previous year, I think even IPID got praised for completing so many cases. I think by the portfolio committee also. But yet all of them were special closures or some dodgy business of bringing it to an end. So it was made to look small. I think Kamanyani even got a bonus, yeah. Yes, I think he got a bonus for that, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you for taking us through that. So then Mr. O'Sullivan complains. Mr. O'Sullivan appears quite a bit within IPID, and he
Yes.
also features quite a lot in your affidavit.
Yes, yes.
What was his relationship to you, and
Okay.
what is his role, is he an IPID member? Is he a policeman?
No, he's not an IPID member, ma'am. He's a person with resources who has information. And at some stage, he had been involved, unfortunately, much to my disliking at that stage, in the Jackie Celebi case, because Jackie Celebi was like a bigger brother comrade in ANC, and then O'Sullivan takes credit for taking him down. So when I was appointed in IPID, he made a statement that, yes, IPID had made a statement that he has no case against Jackie Celebi, and that has not been corrected, and he's going to keep a hawk's eye on us. So I consulted people that in the investigative fraternity. I said, what must I do with this guy? Should I tell him, to go and get intimate with himself and leave me alone? And the people I consulted said, no, this guy is reaching a hand out to you. Go to him and hear what he has. He often has good information. So I met him then. That is before my suspension, when I just was appointed. And a good example, what happens is, I tell you, well, I first checked with ICD. I find out ICD made a statement which was a rough statement against him, very rough. I can't remember what it was, but I then, so IPID is now the derivative of ICD. So when I speak to O'Sullivan about this matter, I tell him, look, seemingly you are proven right. And perhaps my people, although I inherit this, were wrong. So sorry about that. He goes to the newspaper, excuse my laughter, and he tells the newspaper, McBride apologized. So the headline is a headline, says, McBride of IPID apologizes. So I thought, no skin off my back. The guy is eccentric. little bit strange, but he does have information. So when I was suspended, he laid this complaint now at Khamanyane. When I returned, he then came to ask, keeping up his promise of watching us like hawks, his promise, where is his case? And I think he was also the person who brought the pop crew to us. So Bunsame had complained to him, Popro had complained to him. He is the go-to person of disgruntled SAPS members who are whistleblowers who see wrongdoing going on. They go to O'Sullivan. That's what happens. So he sits with a lot of information, even at times when I thought he was wrong. There was an occasion when he was in a public spat with the Crime Intelligence General, who I know to be solid and who does good work. And the general asked, can you speak to this guy? I don't like what you're saying. And then I put them together, they must have a go at each other. Because I don't like stories, carrying stories. One of the biggest sins we make in this country, we make in even political parties, and which I've seen made here in this parliament by Begitele, is running, carrying stories, not listening to the other side. So I put them together and say, talk it up. Come, tell us what it is. Then they were having a go to each other. Allegations were made, counter allegations. In the end, O'Sullivan was satisfied. But the guy hadn't told the truth. There was something he left out which was true before, but was not true at that time. And in any event, O'Sullivan proved to be correct, even when I thought he was wrong on a piece of information. Yeah, so he's got that reputation of being solid, of receiving a lot of information. And so he also tends to brag. For example, there is a case, this one that Phahlane is on, that's going to court in October. He basically said on TV somewhere that he gave the information for the case. That's not true. That case was done by Temani Binang, mostly on his own. So Paul is like that. He has good information, but sometimes he wants to be the center of the story. So, yeah.
Yeah, well, Mr. Paul O'Sullivan is going to appear before this committee and he can tell us where he got the information from. For now, I'd like to take you back to your statement.
Yes.
You returned back to your position once your suspension was lifted. And you get back to the office and find out that there was a complaint laid with Khamanyane, but nothing was in fact done. If I can take you to page 598 of the bundle.
Yes, I have it.
What is that document?
That's a document by Khamanyane writing to Phahlane, against whom the complaint is laid. I can read it out. Kindly be informed that we have received a complaint from Mr. Paul O'Sullivan regarding allegations of tender irregularities and irregular appointments. The IPD in Gauteng have been tasked to grammar's problem, investigation regarding the above case, to conduct investigations. You are requested to arrange a suitable date for IPD to meet with you. And then Phahlane writes to, I think it's his PA, Helen, yes, schedule accordingly. So Phahlane is informed by Khamanyane that O'Sullivan laid the case. At that stage, Homo gets the case, but nothing happens. There are no threats against anybody. Nothing happens. So O'Sullivan's already made his complaint. I am on suspension. No threats against anyone. When I come back, I put Mandla Matlangu in charge of the case. Suddenly, when the task team is set up, threats start coming. And by 2017, early, he tells me that General Mkhwanazi came to him and told him he must just leave this case alone. Guys are too dangerous. And I said to him, what you want to do? You know, you've got a family and stuff. Why didn't you let me know so I know? And then I can refer to DPCI or something. And he said, no, Chief, I want to go on with it. I don't think it's fair that they put pressure on me. So that's how we left it. And things really took off when Sissoko and Kuba came back, and then there was more direct supervision. Because I, as the head of the organization, have to do loads of other issues, compliance, ages report, and all of that, together with my team. So I don't have time to check every investigation. But for special systemic corruption investigations, which we often report to Parliament, that was the way we worked. We would report stuff to Parliament. Sometimes they'll ask, how far has it gone? So there was a time frame about progress. That resulted in new momentum into corruption cases and real traction. So we're making headway in these issues. And for the first time, really, whether it's ICD or IPID, is now making inroads into the real corruption, not 200 rand on the side of the road, we're talking millions. And in the same period, we also started looking at crime intelligence stuff and start finding irregularities, the corruption. And those, already this Nemo Tanzela that Kuba speaks about is already fired. They've got a criminal case he's waiting for also.
And that was as a result of the investigation that you conducted?
IPID investigations and whistleblowers. So the public was with us on this matter. We only got a hard time, Chief Whip. When we came to Parliament, I can't remember who the Chief Whip was then, but you could not touch Phahlane on anything. Phahlane was the man. Couldn't touch him. There was one member of opposition threatened to assault me and told me to watch out. Okay, he's now a member of the GNU, so what can I say?
Well, Mr. McBride, through you, Chair, just to wrap up on O'Sullivan, when General Phahlane appeared here last Wednesday, he informed this committee that O'Sullivan, together with Sarah Jane Trent and IPID official members, attended to his home, his private home.
Yes.
Do you have any comments to say about that?
Yes, I inquired about it because he sent me a message. When people visited my home and he sent it to me and the card I think is Matsango's card. And I think I didn't respond to him, but I asked the guys what had happened. And they said, no, O'Sullivan was pointing out a crime scene. This is how they said it to me. And that their car was a bakkie that only had space for two. So they needed to go into a car with 4 seats, which was O'Sullivan's car. And that's how 4 of them went together to the house. When I asked why was O'Sullivan allowed to take the lead in some instances as reported, the answer I got back is no, they were doing the white man thing. Okay, what's a white man thing? White man thing is we as black people get ignored, we don't get access to the place. People look at us condescendingly. So let's use the white man, push a white man in front. And that's how they got access. And also Paul had that Joster apparently was Paul's informer also, the estate manager. So that's what happened. The guys, so it's like Kuba going to meet in Nematanzela. He goes to meet Nematanzela, but I thought he should have told us beforehand. And we could, he didn't know he landed up on Mkhwanazi. But at the time, so Mkhwanazi's people told our investigator, hey, your chief task team investigator is here. So what you worried about working hard? McBride's contract's finishing soon. So that's how it came to me. So I didn't say, no, that's a wrong move, or that's a wrong move. I said, no, Kuba must play it how he wants to play it so he gets the information. He's the guy on the ground. I'm not there. He must play it how he played it. And that's what I am. I don't micromanage, and I don't second guess my people I work with. It's one good thing about me. I'm not a specialist in anything. I take specialists, pull them together and make them work for a good cause. Like iPad under my tenure.
So what came of that matter? He complained. Did he formally complain?
Which is Phahlane.
Phahlane.
He complained, came to Parliament. So to show you Parliament, Chair and Chief Whip, Parliament was a place where you get crucified. So I understand when honorable members maybe are unhappy if I'm smiling too much. So what happened is, for the first time in the history of South Africa, with Phahlane's complaint and the support he had, the investigators have to answer to the suspects in the official parliamentary portfolio committee on police. Never happened before. Suspect is a suspect. Now we must answer to our suspect and give explanations. All of this is craziness, should not have been done. And we had to go through that. When we went to Scopa, we had to go to Scopa and then make a presentation on his matters. I think at that stage it was, Phahlane was on suspension. It was Sithole. Sithole is refusing to give information about one other issue. And I think on one occasion it was about FTA also. While we're sitting in the Scopa, there is Keating sitting in the corner there listening to the whole testimony. So what happened? It means one of the policemen told him, come there, we're going to be talking about you today. So he was sitting right there listening to him. So they're always one step ahead. And we were getting lambasted all the time. We had no help from Parliament to compel SAPS to comply with our requests, which by law they have to.
Are these meetings closed meetings? Can the public not enter to be part of the meeting? Are you suggesting that he snuck into a meeting that was not a public meeting?
No, ma'am, indeed it's a public meeting. There were journalists there. The point is, he's an implicated person. What's he doing there? Okay. Who told him to come and sit there and listen to our report about how far we've gone with the investigation? Okay. That's the issue.
If I can then just maybe to jog your memory, on your statement at page 22, paragraph 79.
1 second more.
Just to close out on Phahlane, General Phahlane's complaint.
Okay, I have it.
In your statement, you state that in November 2017, General Phahlane lodged a security breach complaint under case number that the complaint was regarding Paul O'Sullivan, who accompanied members from IPID to his Sable Hills estate.
Yes, yes.
Page 22, paragraph 79.
I have it, ma'am.
Yes. The complaint was regarding Paul O'Sullivan, who accompanied members from IPID to Sable Hills estate during investigations into General Phahlane. So he did lay a formal complaint with the police, because I see that there is a case number.
No, what he did is, this is concocted, by the way. This is a concocted breach. It's like a breach of his house, but it's not there. So crime intelligence was now part of contriving that a security breach. In the meantime, when security breach is made, there's at least 3, we have 2 affidavits here. There is another one, I sent it to evidence leader, is, I think it's Kruger.
Yes, if you just continue in your statement,
Okay,
you are now at page 80. At paragraph 80. Still on the same page.
Crime
22.
Intelligence had earlier, on the 2nd of November 2017, done an investigation of the alleged security breach under CAS 534/05/2017. found that there was in fact no such security breach. The officer who did the investigation made statements to that effect. So we have Coetzee and we have Kruger, and there's another one, Henir, also which states the same thing as the other two, RJM 16, RJM 17. And in the rush, we omitted one of them. But most of these documents are all old documents. They've been written, and nothing has been made up in response to Phahlane's allegations or Nkabinde. These statements were there from long ago and were ventilated in many fora, including Parliament.
Okay, if you can then turn to page 649 of the bundle.
Yes, ma'am, 1 second.
That is annexure RJM 16.
Ma'am. It's Janine Coetzee.
Yes. What document is before you?
It's a statement by the crime intelligence officer, Janine Coetzee, who is a captain in the police service station and crime intelligence head office. On Wednesday, the 30th of the 11th, I received an instruction from Lieutenant Colonel Kruger to accompany him to a meeting at Brigadier Moyane's office. Brigadier Moyane asked us to attend to a security breach complaint that Acting National Commissioner Phahlane is resident. The said address, we interviewed the security manager, Brik van der Walt and Chris Huster.
If you just read, so at paragraph 5, it reads, before I go to that paragraph, page 650, it is dated the 2nd of November 2017. Is that correct? Okay.
Yes.
So at paragraph 5, if I just can read it into the record, we was informed that on 9 November 2016, persons that introduced themselves as members of Independent Police Investigative Directorate, IPID, visited the complex regarding an investigation against General Phahlane.
Yes.
I compiled a report, which I handed to Colonel Henny, and a computer copy of the of Lieutenant Colonel Kruger. The report was classified as secret. I never received the signed report back, and I was also never informed of the outcome of the report. We know that that happens in November 2017.
That's
If you turn to the next page at 651.
Yes.
Can you read in the date at the bottom of the page?
Yes, it's 24th of the 11th, 2017.
Yes, and that statement, who is the author of that document?
Franz Hendrik Christian Kruger, state under oath. I'm a Lieutenant Colonel in South African Police Services, stationed at Crime Intelligence Office, and gives his number. Additional to my previous statement dated 2nd of the 11th, regarding paragraph 5, I was informed that Paul Sullivan was with members of the Independent Police Investigative Directorate who visited the Sable Hill complex regarding an investigation against General Phahlane. I never recommended any further investigations into, and he puts in quotation marks, security brief tasking we received. I was informed by a source that SAPS members from Northwest Province visited Sable complex just after we left and before we even submitted the report, which means that the Northwest guys, Jan Mabula's team, arrives long before the outcome of a security breach report is done. And the cell phone analysis shows that Phahlane phoned them straight away, and they headed straight up from Potchefstroom to Pretoria. Yes.
So what we know is that, from your evidence, is that the complaint by General Phahlane regarding a security breach at his home by Paul O'Sullivan
Yes.
was in fact investigated. We have two statements to that effect
Yes.
by to members of the SAPS.
Yes, yes.
If you can then just continue with your evidence at paragraph 81 of your affidavit. It is at page 23.
Which one I have it, ma'am?
Okay.
So Lieutenant Colonel Franz Hendrik attended to the complaint on 2nd of November 2017 and confirmed that Paul O'Sullivan was with members of IPID, visit Stable Hills. No recommendation regarding further investigation into security breaches made. SAPS members from Northwest Province visited Stable Hills complex after we had left before I could submit a report. That's just what it states. Acting Divisional Commissioner General Machele, the Northwest Provincial Commissioner General Motswanyane, together with Mabule team, concocted a report that was used to authorize their travel arrangements for the purpose of investigating the purported breach. I pause to mention that this was an abuse of power by General Phahlane as the acting national commissioner at the time. The Northwest team was created to counter-investigate against the IPID investigation team. This counter-investigation step was authorized under the guise of a security breach against the acting national commissioner. As a result of the concocted report on 10th of May 2017, a second charge of defeating the ends of justice was registered by Nkabinde as the complainant against General Phahlane. Regarding Mabule team, case number 53405-217. Attached to it is a copy of the statement by Nkabinde in his mark, Annex RJM 18.
Turn to that annexure. It's at 652. You've said that Nkabinde was the complainant. Can we just
Yes.
make sure that that's the case?
He was the investigator and he was opening the case here. I'm an adult male of 37 years old, employed at Independent Police Investigative Directorate with personal number. I'm the complainant on behalf of the state in this case, defeating the ends of justice against acting national commission and others. I wish to state that during our approximate period between 9th of November to the 10th of May, our suspect in the corruption case was acting national commissioner, Lieutenant General Komotso Phahlane, as per CNN number 215030085. He allegedly abuses powers by establishing a team from Northwest under false pretenses of a security breach, he spells it breach, to counter our investigation and to interfere with several witnesses. It is alleged that the suspects are operating from Pretoria, where they summon all our witnesses, approaching them to submit second statements which contradicts the initial statement submitted to IPID investigators. No one has a right to interfere with our witnesses to defeat the ends of justice. And it's signed by Cedric on 11th of the 5th, 2017, and commissioned by his colleague, Mancha Rafes.
Okay, and then on the next page is the actual,
Yes, the actual case being
Case.
opened, yeah.
okay. If you can then just maybe give this committee context as to what happened with the counter investigation and why did a team come from the Northwest, from your understanding because at the time you were the head of IPID and you were responsible for the senior investigators.
So the Northwest team, I know the Northwest team from when I was at Ekurhuleni. At that stage in 2006, they were involved in a number of allegations of, it's the same crew, because I know there was a situation where there was a cash in transit. Because we didn't have investigative powers at Metro Police, we rather resorted to first respondent approach. That means we respond quickly to an emergency. And during that period, whilst initially Ekurhuleni was the number one at cash in transit occurrences and bank robberies, later on, it was almost down to zero. The crime was displaced to other areas because of the rapid response time. On one occasion, suspects were caught whilst changing cars after a robbery at, I remember the name, but it's in Boksburg. And anyway, we called in organized crime, which involved one of the people of Mabula team was Manamela. I think he was Superintendent Manamela then. And when he came, they loosened the cuffs of the suspect that was now caught and then took the suspect away because we handed over the scene. We never heard from it. There was automatic weapons in the car. There were keys for other cars. There were cell phones that were ringing, and we were begging him to please put your equipment on this thing. Let's find out where these cell phones have been phoned from so that we can respond quickly and then you can capture the guys. And we spent the rest of that Saturday afternoon trying to locate the people, and no one wanted to help us with technology. Eventually, I phoned Provincial Commissioner Naidu, and he told me to speak to his Deputy Director, Mapiani then. And I spoke to Mapiani. Mapiani says I must come to Germiston. When I came to Germiston, it was late in Saturday night already. The same Northwest team was there already. Later on, I found out about some of the allegations when I came to IPID. So from when IPID was in ICD, in that period, a lot of cases of assault, 2 of murder were reported. There was a big robbery at the airport where foreign currency, diamonds, and I think gold were taken as the loot, and someone was shot at Swiss Air. And out of that, some of the money was recovered, but from the money recovered and was put supposedly in Benoni, in fact, the money had been, the people had started pilfering the evidence already. So the result was that they were called in again, the same team. This is about 2006 also, and in any event, they got a number of people were assaulted, tortured, and 2 died in custody by the same team that Phahlane calls. So that's the reputation they had. So one person, Mampane, they shot him in his back while he was handcuffed. And another person was Solomon Ningane, who was suffocated to death in the presence of Mabula.
Yeah. Chairperson, Mr. McBride, how would they do the counterintelligence into the breach at home? They've come from the Northwest. The case is already before the SAPS in Pretoria. So how would something like that work in?
Well, they disrupted and looked for things against us, and they disrupted the investigation, and they were largely successful. But in the end, I think it was Tuchten, Judge Tuchten, we litigated against the interference. And the judgment basically said, and I think we have it here in the bundle, that counter investigations of cops, at the time, so this is critical, I forgot to mention this. Temani Binang was the investigating officer for the tortures and deaths in custody. This Temani Binang, who they hate, he was the investigating officer, and there was cases still going on when they decided now to have a go at him and say he's one of Phatlane's words, rogue unit. And yet the issue stems from previous investigations against the same team. So none of those cases are on the roll at the moment. So these cases are from 2006, 2010, but one is an inquest. That's where it is, strangely an inquest where the murder issues are very clear. But all those cases, people, they drag them on. It's now 20 years. They'll be sick, they don't come, it doesn't sit, and so on. It's over and over and over, and until it gets struck off the roll provisionally. So there's a few cases. There's one case where the judge listened to the victims, And one victim, we suspect, was approached, withdrew his statement, said he don't want to carry on with this anymore. And the judge believed, said, well, that whilst there was 3 other witnesses and victims, acting magistrate said, well, if this person withdrew his statement, I'm not going to listen to anyone else. It's unheard of, unprecedented, it's unprocedural. But at that stage, the NPA didn't appeal against that decision. Yeah, so they kick for touch and then goes on and on and on and on.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. McBride.
And just to say one thing, it's critical we say this. So everyone likes a big tough guy that is very serious with criminals and stuff. Those people whose rights have been violated, they're black people. Some of them even police officers whose rights are violated. So what is it reminiscent of? It's reminiscent of when we were the victims and we had no one to complain to. And that's one of the purposes why you have IPED existing, to look at those abuses or alleged abuses. That's the issue.
Thank you, Mr. McBride. Just to come back to Phahlane's matters, because we are still dealing with the task
Yes, ma'am. Sorry, I'm talking too much.
No, it's okay. Finally, what has actually come of all these matters? You've mentioned and you've told the committee that there are a number of investigations which were conducted regarding General Phahlane, most of which were led by Cedric Nkabinde.
Yes.
And you've told the committee on details and specifics with demonstrating charge sheets and affidavits. What has come of these matters? Where are they today?
Well, there's 2 matters in court. They're both corruption matters, both serious corruption, where Phahlane appears with other people in court. They've appeared a few times. On one case, I'm sorry, it's amusing to see him saying, bring it on, but he's tried to get it dismissed off the roll over and over and over again. Every trick under the book. He's 7 years old. And the judge pushed it to October and November, just so that's for trial. It's set down. No more deferring and delaying and distraction. So that's what a lot of the other cases are still in abeyance. People are still busy with them.
Okay.
Yeah.
I invite you to read your paragraph 86 of the statement.
Moreover, some of the criminal matters that Phahlane faces, which were investigated by IPED, have been set down. Attached here to are documents in my possession pertaining to this case, which includes a charge sheet as RJM 19A and it says here JM 19B. Finally, General Phahlane and IPED have been in court for various matters in which General Phahlane has not been successful. To that end, I attach judgment confirming same markers annexes RJM 20.
Okay. RJM 20, we have already placed on record that it forms part of the exhibit bundle.
Yes.
And we don't need to go through it now for the purposes of this evidence. But can you turn to page 657 of the bundle?
One second, ma'am.
On everyone's bundle, it's going to read as 65 because the number got cut off. But if you look at the next page, it will be 658.
So 657, yeah?
Yeah, 657. That is a charge sheet. Can you read in the date at the top right corner? And perhaps you can tell us, and in comparing, because this is the annexure that you attach to support your paragraph 86.
Date of first appearance is the 21st of the 9th, 2022. Next to the case number and next to date of first appearance.
Who is the accused in that document?
The accused is Johannes Khomotso Phahlane, and the investigating officer is Anthony Seas.
Okay. And then the next page at 658.
658.
Who is the accused in that, on that document?
I'm not sure if it's part of the, oh, it's Mankosana Agnes Machele, who was an erstwhile acting head of crime intelligence.
So that is to support that those matters, are those the matters that you're talking about which have now been set down for trial?
Yes, ma'am.
If you can just also read the case number into the record.
Case number is 565 11 2017.
Yes. Thank you, Mr. McBride. That concludes the task team for Phahlane. However, before we move on from General Phahlane, when he was here last Wednesday, he told us that on the 5th of June 2024, he had an incident in Dunkeld. Do you know anything about that incident that occurred, that took place in Dunkeld regarding General Phahlane and his wife?
What year was that, ma'am?
2024. On the 5th of June.
I know about one much earlier incident where he was in a fingernail place or something.
Okay, I can jog your memory because you may have not maybe heard that part of his evidence. General Phahlane testified that he had gone to I think a spa, he said, in Dunkeld with his wife.
Yeah.
And an incident occurred where they basically they were stopped. I think it may have been at gunpoint, if I'm not mistaken. And he testified that you sent him a message saying, sorry, I just heard. If you know that if you need any help, the offer still stands. Would you like to comment about that?
Yeah.
Did you send that message and would you like to comment about that? So two things.
Yeah. Firstly, the message, I did send a message to him, but it wasn't 2024. It's some time ago. And the message meant to convey, if you want to still cooperate with the investigation and not be scared of repercussions for you, you can speak to us. But it's about 2017. And because I know that after 2017, 2018, I was still in IPED then, not 2024. So after I'd heard that he had done the counter investigation and these people were harassing us, I began a process of ridiculing him. So we couldn't fight back with much. So anytime they came for us, we made jokes about them. So Phahlane got an award for bravery in that matter. And I think there's also a financial reward that goes with it. But I ridiculed him, and I said it in Parliament. How can you get an award for bravery when you slide in on the floor hiding behind cushions?
Yes. But Mr. McBride, I'm sorry, I don't mean to interject. I mean, would you like to comment on the text message that you sent that said the offer still stands, specifically after the incident?
If he wants to be a 204 witness, the offer stands.
Okay. And then he also testified that subsequently thereafter, he discovered that there was a copy of a CCTV footage of the attack.
Yes.
Following the Dunkeld incident, that attack.
Yes.
And he says that he discovered that you were the person who got a hold of the copy.
No. It was on YouTube.
And he says you circulated it into the media. Do you have any comments regarding?
No, it's on YouTube. The whole world saw it.
So you distance yourself from that?
It was on YouTube.
Okay. I would like to now shift gears and move on to the next topic.
Yeah.
We are now going to look at the section dealing with Mr. Nkabinde.
Yes, thanks.
What we know is that you've given us evidence that at a point he was one of your lead guys investigating the Phahlane complaints into General Phahlane.
Yeah.
Okay, so if we can then just Sorry, I'm just
Oh,
moving.
sorry, if I could just
Yes.
add in that.
Yes, you may.
By the way, I think it was Minister Nhlego that gave him the award, or under Minister Nhlego's instruction, that he got the award for bravery. Just for completeness of evidence.
Yeah. So, Mr. McBride, may I ask you to turn to page 5 of your statement? We will be reading starting at paragraph 18.
Okay, I have it, ma'am.
Mr. Nkabinde, when he appeared before this committee, before we just get into his evidence, he says that you visited Minister Senzo Mchunu's home in Empangeni, KwaZulu-Natal. At the time, Minister Mchunu was not a minister, and it was regarding a complaint. I'm reading at 18.1
Yeah.
of your statement. It was regarding a complaint that Mr. Mchunu had against, regarding the behavior of the Hawks. Would you like to take us through that evidence?
Yeah, so I got a complaint, and it was conveyed to me by Nkabinde that former Premier Mchunu has a complaint, but he would like to see me personally. And over the next few days, he indicated to me, no, must keep it quiet. He wants to see me alone. So, suspecting something not right, because he was already starting to misbehave. I then sent, and he said, I must just come down. There'll be a car waiting for me, and we'll drive up there. I sent a protector down first, ahead of me to scout out ahead, and we remained in like 2 or 3 days before what's going on.
Yeah, before you continue, Mr. McBride, if you can just also indicate roughly around when was this visit to KZN?
There's actually evidence of that.
Yes.
Because after the visit, I sent the information note to Minister Cele to say this had taken place and this is the issues of it.
Yeah. According to your statement at paragraph 18.1, you say it was around 2017.
Yeah.
So is that correct? So it would have
So
been
April
roughly
20
around,
So it's for me, it's 2018 when I sent the information note, which is like 1 or 2 weeks.
Okay.
After the visit took place, yeah. So my statement when it was, because you'll be able to see the information note that I sent. So again, I want to reiterate, all of this stuff we are saying has existed for a long time. We're not responding to what people came and say here. We've had it there. We're just making it available to show about the concoctions they made, because this evidence is there already. The statements are there, affidavits, court cases are there already. Yeah. So
Okay.
I would say is the date on the information note gives an indication of which year and which month it was.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what came of that visit?
Oh, well, that visit, I arrived at the airport, King Shaka Airport, and I received a WhatsApp or something from Cedric. You know, come to the drop-off point on top. We got a car waiting for you. So when I came up there, I mean, I first told the protector, listen, this is what they're saying. The protector was there with his own car. When I arrived there, Nkabinde is there with a guy who I don't know the guy, but he said me the guy's a businessman. He's also a member of the youth league, and then the protector steps in, and then Cedric's eyes almost pop out of his head because he expected me to be alone and vulnerable. So he says now, after recovering, he says to the protector, okay, can you write in the back there, we still need to brief the chief. This is important, what he needs to brief me about. Because if you see his various testimonies, he pretends that I'm the one that introduced him to former Premier or current Minister Mkhunu. So it was a lie. So he still has to brief me. What is this about? So I get in the car, we travel all the way to Mpangeni, we go. When we arrive at the house, protectors behind us all the way, he goes in ahead. So we're standing at the entrance to the house, which enters into a lounge. And Minister Mkhunu is sitting on a balcony, outside. So Cedric goes ahead and says to check if it's okay for me to come through. Cedric, who supposedly doesn't know him. Then he says I can come through. Then I come through. But I know Minister Mkhunu. I know him a long time. He's been active in ANC for a long time. So I didn't need Cedric to sit. But Cedric was in good books there because he cleared the way for me to enter. He was holding court for the Minister Mkhunu to allow him to come there. So that's the environment. When I listened to the complaint, in fairness, the complaint looked like a genuine case of harassment and mischief making by DPCI Hawks. I can't remember who the official was. I think it was Zikale or something like that. I'm not sure of the surname of the official. And so the matter was closed on the docket at some stage, and then they opened it suddenly. Someone else had it before. But the issue involved I think it involved the cell phones or something of a bodyguard that had been murdered. I'm not sure where, somewhere in Mpangeni. And this case has been reopened again. And yeah, that was the issue. So the matter was dealt with properly. I left Cedric with the case because of his funny ways about him. It's like you get accepted for it. I want to see the size of the monster. So I go to these places. There's even 2 other occasions, no, 3, where he calls me to a meeting. I don't know what the meeting's about. I arrive at the meeting and see some people I know, in one instance, 3 suspects, police suspects. Another one I don't know is supposedly from Pretoria magistrate or something like that. And then the third one is some crime intelligence officials who are witnesses for us. I think they've given statements also, which might be in here. And but on each occasion, he pretends that I asked for the meeting. And then there's another occasion when he introduces me to someone who's a prosecutor in KZN and he tells me they want to work with you. So I say, well, if they want to fight against corruption, I'll work with them, meet with them. But the guy has got a bad reputation there in KZN and more recently in Eastern Cape, yeah.
If we can then, thank you, Mr. McBride. If we can then turn to page 25 of your statement, because now it leads us squarely within Cedric Nkabinde.
Yeah.
From paragraph 88, you give evidence regarding what he said before this committee.
Yeah.
So if we can go into that.
I summarize 3 main points of his allegations made in the committee, and I labeled them line number 1. I attached documents in my possession, RJM 21, which shows who suspended him. So a bald-faced lie that I suspended him, not true. The supervisor suspended him.
So if we can just perhaps pause there and look at the document that you are talking about that has been attached.
RJM 21.
Yes.
Yes, ma'am. Page number, please, ma'am.
It's in the exhibit bundle.
Oh,
Um,
exhibit bundle.
Yeah, it's in the exhibit bundle. Do you have the exhibit bundle? Close to you? Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, thank you, ma'am. Thank you very much.
Okay, the exhibit bundle is not paginated. It just contains a number of documents. But we're looking basically for the document that shows that he was not suspended by you. There, 21. It starts at page. It's in the middle. There's a blue demarcation in the middle.
I have
of
it,
the-
ma'am.
You have it. Do you have it in front of you?
1 second. Yeah. The RJM 21 starts with the blue page.
Yes.
Yes, yes.
It is one of those documents.
The document is a public service coordinating bargaining council, and it deals with an agreement.
Okay. In the middle of the bundle, because it's not paginated like yours and mine,
Yes, yes.
page 43 of the bundle is a letter from IPED suspending Cedric. It is dated the 4th of June 2018. It's in the middle of page. And if you turn to the next page, do you see it?
So I'm on a
Page
page.
43. IPED, if you turn to the next page, that would be page 44.
1 second, ma'am, just bear with me.
Should look
So
like
I've
this.
got the,
It is in essence a letter addressed to Cedric Nkabinde from IPED. It's dated the 4th of June, 2018. If you turn to the next page, the person who has signed the letter is noted as Miss Patadi Maharaj,
yes,
Provincial Head KZN.
yes,
And the contents of the letter, because you have not reached it, the subject line is precautionary suspension from work. And it details the reason for the suspension.
yes, yes.
Yes. So we now know that it was in fact, Miss Maharaj who suspended Cedric from
Yes. But the notice
KZN.
of intention to suspend was done by Van der Sand, where the
Okay.
process started.
And then on the next page, on the next line, Mr. Cedric says that in his testimony, he says that on the day that the disciplinary hearing was supposed to take place, you arrived at
Yes.
the hearing
Yes, yes.
to try and stop the hearing. Subsequently, after that, there was a settlement
Yeah, yeah.
that came about. Please, would you like to comment on that?
Yeah, I mean, it's a lie. That's why I mentioned, because his lawyer, Gary Bell, sends a letter to the lawyer representing IPED, saying his instructions from his client as follows, that the client wishes to resign. It's in my main, yeah, it's 1 second. Yeah, I go to it in 90.2 of my affidavit, but it's an extract from the RJM 22. I don't know where RJM 22 is.
It's at page 732.
732. 1 second. Almost there, ma'am.
Your flag should read 22.
1 second, ma'am. Yeah, it's a letter. It was sent to Arshad Savant. And it's from Gary Lister. And this is what we pulled off from the lawyers now recently. And we asked the lawyers to give it to us. So it's Gary Bell from Lister and Company writes the following.
Who is Gary Bell?
He's actually the lawyer of the company that's representing Cedric. So if I remember, he was not at the hearing. And he says, I can even read it from here. He says, as per our discussions relating to an amicable manner in which the matter can be settled, we have taken instructions from our client who has proposed the following. The employee withdraws a disciplinary inquiry and related charges forthwith. This comes from Cedric. Our client will resign with immediate effect. Comes from Cedric. Our client agrees to the employer request to withdraw all of his complaints which have been filed. The settlement agreement will be in full and final settlement. So the issue here, he wants to resign. When a person resigns, you can't discipline them. Can't do anything to them. So that's number one consideration. He's going. I was there to testify. I was scheduled to be a first witness against him. I was going to testify. And when he saw me, he spoke to Moses Dlamini, was a spokesperson, and said to Moses, is the chief here? Is he going to testify? Hey, I'd rather not testify. I'd rather go. I'd rather resign. That's how it happened. Because he couldn't face me, and the lies has been spreading, all because he didn't get a post, which he didn't even apply for. But yeah, someone got to him.
Sorry to interject. How did you, Cedric was one of your star investigators within IPED.
Yeah.
He was handling a very big matter, dealing with issues that related to an acting national commissioner.
Yeah.
And he was also praised for being one of the great investigators amongst his team members.
Yeah, yeah.
And he's filed a number of complaints on behalf of IPED in relation to these particular complaints that we speak about, particularly General Phahlane.
Yeah.
At which point does now Cedric move from being this lead investigator into Phahlane's matters to now sitting before a disciplinary hearing and facing dismissal?
So after he refused to acknowledge he had been approached by cops to make a 204, in other words, to scuttle the investigations, he was removed from the task team by Mr. Sissoko. So he left the task team. And then he went back to his province. And when he went back to his province, he was then further suspended. That is in the investigation section. It's not in the executive director's office. In any event, he was suspended and all of that. But him leaving the task team made him go crazy. And then these complaints started popping up. We dealt with all the complaints, whether it's public protector, whether it's a PSC, whether it's I was not allowed to defend against former Minister Peggy Cele, but it was a lie that Cedric told, and Peggy Cele went on a lie to come and persuade Parliament. And two issues, Cedric Nkabinde and the concoction he did with members of state security, and which the IGI's got a complaint. I can read it out if anybody wants to hear it. But it's about the concoction, a long story, how they use juicy names, which is exactly what Mkhwanazi did. Drop a nice juicy name like McBride. It's got nothing to do with PKTT or anything like that. So out of McBride comes now Nkabinde. Nkabinde gets now really excited. Wow, he's got a chance to have a second bite at the chair. In fact, third bite, because he was sent back to fix up his evidence when his evidence was all over the place and was wrong. So this committee sent him back because it was clear he was lying. So after he came back with his repaired statement and information, he then starts singing a long song about me, not about Brown Mapotsi he was dealing with, not about Matlala, not about PKT, not about a letter that was written and amended and all of that. Robert McBride, an old story, deals with that. And then it's a nice, juicy name. So up comes Phahlane. He suddenly feels resurrected. He somehow forgets he's got 2 cases waiting for him, serious cases, done and dusted, slam dunk cases. So my name is why I'm here. Dropped his name and then we can deal with him. It serves no purpose. I was not part of IPID when Phahlane was prosecuted. I was not part of NPA took the decision to prosecute him. I'm not a prosecutor. I'm not part of NPA. The duty of an investigator is to make the case and submit it, and they must decide whether they're going to prosecute or not. So that's what happened. So I cannot do anything for Phahlane. There's nothing I can do. To mention my name, try and put me under pressure. It doesn't do anything to me. And Cedric said he lied. Well, I'm showing that Cedric lied. I'll deal with lie number 3 just now. Lie number 3 is Cedric says that there was a conspiracy against Phahlane to falsely target him. No, it's not true. Sequence of events leading up to this Damascus moment is, according to the lie, the Bryant O'Sullivans. This lie has been mentioned before in support of Phahlane after Nkabinde had been found out as a double agent and after he had been removed from the task team. I have furnished the evidence leader with the affidavits of Kuba, Sissoko, and various investigating officers, as well as the recording of telephone conversations between Nkabinde and Mandla Matlango and the transcripts of the same. As I have also given the evidence leader recording of a telephone conversation between Como and Matlango. Attached hereto is a copy of the statement dated 24th of July 2018, deposed to by Kuba, marked RJM 23. So that's a lie. So based on the lie Cedric told, I mean, at some stage, this Cedric's allegations landed up in a cash-in-transit WhatsApp group that was made up of policemen and security companies. And Mabula, the same guy that Phahlane calls up to help him fight against us, drops it on that group, this complaint of Cedric, until one of the other members of the group from the security company said, but this got nothing to do with cash in transit. Why are you dropping it here? When I heard it, I tried to make contact with the Minister Cele because I knew Cedric's communication was with Cele's office over and over and over again. Then I went to see the minister. Minister, what is this? Minister Peggy Cele says to me, no, it's true. I got the document from Mabula. He sent it through an intermediary. I took the document as it was and locked it in my safe, and it never left my safe. So I don't know how it got out onto the group. So why would a full whole minister explain to me about the document he took and put in his safe. Well, what is he trying to explain? In any event, he used that to smear my name in this arm of the state, the legislature. He used that, which is based on a lie. I've shown now Cedric's lies. I've shown many of his lies. So to use it, for me not to, my contract to be extended, even though there was an impeccable record, IPOD was stepping up. It was taking on the big guns, the dangerous men, the criminals with badges, the criminals in blue. Minister Tele and the entire committee, except for a few people. I think one of them was Honorable Diane Kola Barnard, who resisted. Philip Mtlongo from EFF, who was a family friend and who was close to my father, phoned me and said, Becky's flashing around here a paper which says you an enemy agent. Comrade Robert, I'm so disgusted by this man. I've always knew there's something wrong with him. He does that. But anyway, the most painful one was none of the others, not Ramatlakana. Ramatlakana is a serial he's a serial defector. But the one that pained me was Jerome Marke, because I respect Jerome Marke. Jerome Marke was hardcore liberation fighter and been twice to Robben Island, so I respected him. Why he's turned against me? So somebody, that's why, Honorable Chief Whip, your job is very important. How you guide people and not let their minds get fooled by the likes of Nkabinde.
Thank you, Mr. McBride. Chairperson, Mr. McBride told us that Mr. Nkabinde was to be a 204, and that's how the transition moved from him being a star investigator to now supporting Mr. General Phahlane.
Yeah.
We see that also in your papers that he subsequently he's been filing affidavits as a complainant in General Phahlane's matters.
Yes.
And now he's switched in support of General Phahlane. He files a supporting affidavit, an answering affidavit.
Yes.
Do you have any comments about that?
Well, Cedric Nkabinde is just a greedy person who wants acknowledgement without putting the work in and likes money. I mean, we are aware of him buying like 10 suits at a time and stuff like that. But that's part of an investigation. I can't speak about ongoing investigation. I'm sorry, it's not I'm refusing. It's not my investigation. It started off when I was at IPOD. So he likes the flashy style, the money. By the way, he refused to tell this committee what he did on a weekend with General Mkwanazi. I noticed that. He said it's a boys' weekend out, so he can't talk about it. So there's some secret business went on there.
Yeah.
And
Thank you, Mr. McBride. If I can now just point us back to we're at the tail end of our statement.
yes, ma'am.
And we are now at 92.5 of the statement. In that section, you deal with the former public protector, Ms. Mkhwebane, I think it's Advocate Mkhwebane, tried to stop Nkabinde's disciplinary proceedings against, she tried to intervene basically in Nkabinde's disciplinary proceedings. Do you have any comments about that?
No, it's true. And also Pegitele also tried to, at the same time, forbid me from going ahead. And I've sent him an information note saying, it's not actually by me, it's by the head of legal saying, it is what I testified now. His supervisor suspended him. It's not McBride.
Yeah.
And it's you're interfering with the independence of IPOD now.
If I can just perhaps read your statement into the record, you say, when that attempt failed by the public protector, the former public protector,
Yeah.
she subsequently conducted an unlawful investigation in favor of Nkabinde, recommending that my team and I be charged. These findings were set aside by the High Court, and you attach the judgment at JM 24A and B of the bundle. Perhaps just for the sake of completion, if we could turn to those annexures.
What
And-
number, ma'am? Page number?
I will show you. It forms part of the exhibit bundle.
Oh, this one?
Yeah, the
Yes.
exhibit bundle. And the exhibit bundle is sectioned off by blue paper. It would be the third section.
This side? Another blue one.
But more importantly, those are the documents that were before court, the affidavits. I think the more pointed one would be RJM 24B, which you will find in your bundle at 738.
1 second, ma'am.
It is a matter that was before the Pretoria High Court under case number 74427/19, dated 1 June 2022.
Yes, ma'am, I have it.
Would you like to comment about that judgment?
Yeah, the judgment sets aside the public protector's report. So it doesn't deal with the multitudes of reasons for setting aside that we do, but mainly the issue of procedural unfairness and biasness, which was a recurring theme with the public protectors' pronouncements.
So in your statement, you deal with this issue, and you said the report of a public protector was in essence in support of Cedric Kabinde, and it was trying to stop disciplinary hearings from continuing.
Yeah,
And that report that was filed
Yeah.
was set aside.
yeah.
Okay, we don't have the report here before us.
Yeah.
We have the court papers, but the judgment basically confirms that at the order.
So, ma'am, just to give a fuller picture. So it wasn't me who tried to
Yes.
stop the disciplinary.
Yes.
It was the public protector and the minister, not me, working in concert to stop the disciplinary process.
Yes, at 738, the applicants are members of IPED, as you would have said in your statement. I see Matthew Sissoko is the first applicant,
Yes, yes.
and it is against the Office of the Public Protector.
Yeah.
Ms. Busisiwe Mkhwebane was the second respondent.
Yes,
IPED was the third respondent.
yes, yes.
And the Fidelity Security Services, PTY Ltd, was the fourth,
Yeah, yeah.
and then the Minister of Police.
So, yes, if I can just go to the fidelity issue. So at the time of the threat against Mandla's life, the initial one, we don't have the resources to track back on cell phones who sent this threatening message. So we use a service provider as an emergency. This is important because there's a lot of rumors about this afterwards. Because an official, an investigator's life is threatened. It's an urgent procurement in terms of Treasury regulations. So we got someone to interpret what is taking place in this threat and look at it and apply for the correct 204 and all of that. So 205, so that we can see what's going on. And
Yes, you may continue.
yeah. So out of that, we hired a a service from Fidelity. So they made the person available to us on a temporary basis, which is Teresa Botha. But what is missing in the entire thing of what Cedric says? Cedric once sat on a panel of Teresa Botha when she applied for a job at IPID some time ago, 2015 or something. And he, out of the panel, there were 3 senior people, the 2 directors and him. And I've got a statement here. It's a statement from Van der Sant. He marked Teresa Botha so low that she could not be given the post. So the other 2 were impressed, give a high marks. It was Dan Morema, Van der Sant, and then Cedric Nkabinde. Surely, if his issues are against Teresa Botha, later on then he applies, there are 2 jobs applied for. So he stops Teresa Botha in the first time because what is she? She's a cell phone analyst. He stops her. But then what he does is he complains when he doesn't get a promotion. He's actually talking on the phone to Mandla. And his duplicity is of such a nature. After talks to Mandla and complain about the white people, he immediately phones the white people to Teresa and say, Teresa, how are you? Whatever. And that is a recording which we have. So that's the type of human being he is. So committee can judge for itself. And whether former Minister Bekitele should have believed him, well, Bekitele wanted to believe him. That's the issue.
Thank you, Mr. McBride. If I can just then take you, just to close off this part about the review application, setting aside the report.
Yes, ma'am.
Basically, at the outset, Judge Kuverji states that the applicants seek to review and set aside the findings as well as the remedial action imposed by the public protector in her final report titled Report Number 41 of 2019/2022, Report of an Investigation into Allegations of Procurement Irregularities, Irregular Appointment and Maladministration relating to the appointment of Ms. T.H. Botha as Deputy Director, National Specialized Investigation Team, dated 16 September 2019. And the order that was made at page 765 is the public protector's findings made in report number 41 of 2019/2020 noted the report on an investigation into allegations of procurement irregularities, irregular appointment and maladministration relating to the appointment of Ms. T.H. Botha dated 16 September 2019 is set aside in its entirety.
Yes.
Number 2, the remedial action set out in paragraph 7 of the report is set aside in its entirety. Number 3, the respondents are ordered to pay costs of this application. The order does not necessarily, I know you've put context into what happened with the Fidelity Fund, but it does not quite set aside the disciplinary hearing against Cedric Nkabinde.
No. You mean the report to the public protector?
Yes.
No, this is a separate letter which is sent to the, I think it was addressed to me or something. At the same time, Bekitele sent his.
Okay, so this had to do with Ms. Botha.
Yeah, that was the issue. Also, the Public Service Commission complained. Cedric says he didn't do it, but he was the only one doing those things. Set aside also, unsubstantiated.
Okay.
So out of all this unsubstantiated and set aside, why must this guy be believed? And I'm giving context and proving it, how he lied before this parliament, before this ad hoc committee. Why should he be believed? So it creates another problem. Sorry to be laughing, but it creates another problem where when Minister Tele did not extend my contract, was he going, did he base it on a lie? because I can prove they're quite easy. Yeah, I'm just saying there's other implications, but I'll leave it there, ma'am.
We are now at paragraph 92.6. Would you like to just complete your statement before I invite you to get into the recommendations?
Yeah, so 92.1, Phahlane had used a gap created by Mkhwanazi and Nkabinde in front of the committee to plead his case in front of elected representatives. Phahlane is facing several criminal charges for serious offences, including but not limited to corruption, fraud, and other charges in North Gauteng, Pretoria High Court, and Johannesburg Specialized Commercial Science Court, respectively. He is due for trial in October 26 and November 26 in different courts. Phahlane is currently out on bail. Again, this has nothing to do with Mkhwanazi's paramilitary show of force or the PKTT or the arrest of General Khumalo. Why I say paramilitary show of force? That's his own words at Madlanga. Show of force against what? Against a constitutional order. That is you guys. That's what a show of force is, to intimidate all of you, to intimidate the executive. That's what it's about, the show of force. If you had a problem, you can go to court like the rest of us go to court. Phahlane does not mention the two criminal cases they are facing and are due back in court in October and November this year. I was not involved in any of the investigations into these two cases, and I did not have part in the decision to prosecute him. While the investigation into these cases started when I was still ED of IPID, the completion of these investigations were done long after I left IPID. His bring it on challenge is strangely at odds with various attempts to get the charges dismissed. 92.4, it's important for this committee to know that I spoke out about police corruption, especially committed by generals in the police, in my presentation to Parliament. I even stated that it is the greatest security threat to the country. And I spoke out about prosecutors or protecting criminals in uniform. In this regard, I have prepared separate bundles of documents, including submission to Zondo, litigation documents against Phahlane, and the police and public protector litigation. The former public protector, and we're dealing again with public protector, I don't think I have to go over it again, but I'm guided by you.
Where are you reading now, Mr.?
92.5, man.
92.5, okay, thank you. Proceed.
Yes, 92.5. The former public protector, Mr. Khwabane, tried to stop Nkabinde's disciplinary proceedings against Nkabinde. When that attempt failed, she subsequently conducted an unlawful investigation in favor of Nkabinde, recommending that my team and I be charged. His findings were set aside by the High Court. Attached hereto is a copy of Public Protector's report and a judgment setting it aside marked as annexures 24A and 24B. The fact is, Nkabinde is a man of questionable character, driven by greed. He only became disgruntled because he could not get a promotion in IPID, and Phahlane and his crew took advantage of that by offering a brigadier position in exchange for a false implication in wrongdoing against me, and offering Nkabinde, and that goes to explain, ma'am, the question, how did the star turn around? And offering Nkabinde gladly accepted due to greed. He went on to join the suspects in our investigation and to shield them from accountability. Long before he is removed from task team, cell phone records analysis reports show him speaking to suspects when it was not his business. And after he's removed from task team, he was still speaking to suspects. And a few days before he wrote the affidavit in support of Phahlane, I was meeting with Phahlane in a tower in a suburb called Saxonwold. So there's clearly lead up to each time he makes a statement or complaint. And he went on to join the suspects in our investigation to shield them from accountability. Part of the evidence was that he was going to be led in this disciplinary proceedings. Was cell phone analysis attached here to mark 25A and 25B. That's what I'm referring to. You can't escape from cell phone unless your phone gets legs and walks. And then you can escape from your phone. Shows that he was in constant communication with our suspects, even after he was removed from the investigation. A closer look at the analysis suggests that he might have been receiving gratification from the suspects. I unfortunately left IPID before these investigations were complete. He failed to inform the committee that he even lodged a grievance for not getting promotion. When Nkabine's position to SAPS had been stopped, Mkonazi then found Nkabinde a job in private sector. That is fact. In my view, certain matters which were before IPID ought to have forged ahead in respect of investigations and prosecutions.
Mr. McBride, before you continue, you mentioned an annexure. Just to close off, what do you mean by those cell phone records? Could you just put that into record? If you turn to page 766 of the bundle, you will find RJM 25A.
Let me see. 1 second, ma'am. 61, 1 second. So he speaks to that Langa. There's a short for Delanga. General Deliwe Delanga was a co-accused of Phahlane. He talks to Phahlane also, 17th of July. That's a few days before he makes his complaint, which I think is 24th of July or something. Yeah, so that's an analysis done on the Hillbrow case. That's a case involving, colloquially referred to as the blue lights case. He speaks to the service provider, which is Wimpy Mantata of the blue lights, who is also a co-accused in the case of the blue lights case in Johannesburg, registered as a Hillbrow case, but in the Johannesburg Specialized Commercial Crimes Court.
Just to provide context, what is the blue lights case?
It's a case which involves the instruments that are attached to a police vehicle so that it's able to be utilized for police. And blue lights is just reference to one of the aspects that put on, namely it's the emergency lights. They refer to them blue lights because they're blue, but they are emergency lights. And the service provider fitted those things on a range of cars.
Yeah. So your evidence is that Mr. Nkabinde was speaking to suspects at the time regarding cases that had ongoing investigations. Was he doing that in his capacity as an investigator? Where was Cedric Nkabinde at the time in July, on the 19th of July, 2018?
From memory, he was off the investigation team. I can't remember the date of his disciplinary or what date he resigned on. I can check it, it's here. Yeah, but I'm not sure, he was not on the task team, according to statements from the analyst and from Sissoko. He was not on the task team.
Okay.
So why is he talking to suspect? And he talks to Phahlane also before he makes a statement in Patlane's favor. And the evidence, but I'm not involved in the case, so I only know a little bit from what I hear. Is the lawyer of Phahlane also, BDK lawyer. Yeah, I want to sit in here, yeah.
Thank you. I'm going to hand over to Mr. Arendse. Thank you, Mr. McBride. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Advocate Mkhize, and well done. Just a few miscellaneous questions.
Yes, sir.
Firstly, about Mr. O'Sullivan.
Yes, sir.
You know about this book that he wrote. And there was a gathering at Radovan Kretscher's former place,
Yes, yes,
which he bought, and he had the book launch there,
yes.
and he invited that's the meeting that
Yeah, that's
Mr. Kabindi referred to.
yes, sir. That is a meeting refers to. No one was aware that it's Radovan Kretscher's house. We're given an address, we must go there. And it's for, I'm not even worried if it's Radovan Kretscher's house. We're invited to a braai. Kretscher is in jail. And I don't even know who the journalist is there. Apparently the journalist was writing a book. And I've just heard like a few days ago on Kretscher, and Kretscher had just been sentenced. And that there's a book called Joining the Dots,
Yes.
which Paul is giving out. We thought it's a normal Christmas braai or something like that.
Yeah.
But in any event, that braai played no part in Cedric Nkabinde's Damascene event, because he stayed as a lead investigator for a long time. So that's 2016 December. In 2017, he's leading the investigations. And it's only in 2018 now he starts making contact with the suspects. But
Now-
by then he's blown.
Now, you described Mr. O'Sullivan as eccentric.
Yes, others use stronger words.
Now, it seems to me from the objective facts that he claims to have brought down Jackie Salebi and of course Radovan Kretscher
Yeah.
and others. But do you know whether he was a witness in any of those cases? Or
Ac- According to me, sir, he wasn't a witness in any of these cases, and he's not a policeman.
is he a witness in the two criminal cases you referred to that General Phahlane is facing?
Certainly not, sir. Certainly not.
So what can one infer from that? What is his modus operandi? What's his, obviously in English, what is the
Well-
way, how does he operate?
Well, we call it COA, Center of Attention. He's always the main man. Like some people say, everyone's a hero in their own story. But he a bit more. Yeah.
Well, can you tell us a bit more, because the allegation is made that he infiltrated or has infiltrated IPID, he's infiltrated the South African police services. In fact, he controls them.
What-
And we know from the Constitutional Court judgment, of course, that you need to do so without fear or favor, and you must act independently without external
Yeah.
influences. There's an allegation that he's an external influence, and therefore he compromises the work that IPID does.
Yeah. So my response to that is, on two occasions, I basically brought him to order about pushing ahead with investigations. And each occasion, which was different, he didn't speak to me for a few months. So he went on a sulk, because on the second occasion, I was forced to tell him in front of other people quite hard. Even the same Nkabinde came to me and said, "No, Chief, you're too hard." And so he sulks a bit when he doesn't get his way. So getting his way is important, but to imagine that he controls, I mean, I said it also in portfolio committee when this thing came up in 2017 from Phahlane. Now, that if there's anyone in the entire world tells you they control me to do wrong things, show me that person, I will show you a liar. Nobody controls me to do wrong things. If you hear one day someone told me to do this and that and I did it, that's a blue lie. So no one can do that. In fact, even the head of investigation at the time, Matthew Sissoko, even called the team in and warned them, listen, the guy talks too much, I can't use all the words he said. So deal with him with circumspection. He has information, his information is accurate, but be aware, that's what he told the investigators. And that's what we agreed to. And that's what we carried out. So on one occasion now recently, which I haven't spoken to him since, he said he paid for my constitutional matter with the Helen Suzman Foundation for me. Of course, fortunately, I didn't have to defend myself. Helen Suzman Foundation defended themselves and says it's a lie. Now, the issue is this: if you have any idea about Helen Suzman Foundation or the lady who it's named after, they are fiercely independent. They will not tolerate anyone telling them what to do. That alone will tell them whether, even if you go and look at CASAC, you go and look at freedom under law, they are not. You're not going to push them around. My experience from them are solid people. And their interest is not Robert McBride or anybody else. Their interest is constitutional order. That one which Mkhonazi was doing a show of force against.
Now you,
Can I check with yourselves, Advocate Arends and Mr. McBride, how much time do you need? Because I thought that Advocate Mukiza was the last.
another 10 minutes, Honorable Chair.
10 minutes. Yeah. 10 minutes. There is an important announcement which we must make here. So if it's 10 minutes, it's okay. I can tolerate that.
Thank you, Honorable Chair, honorable members. You mentioned in your evidence that he does sometimes come up. He seems to be like a Don Quixote. He does sometimes come up with some bird-brained ideas or theories or allegations.
Yeah.
But somewhere in there, it's a bit of hit and miss. Now, I mention that because there is the one concrete example of this. I think it's a Colonel Munsami.
Yes, yes,
It's in the papers.
yes.
Who and it was referenced by my colleague Advocate Mkhize,
Yeah, yeah.
where he ultimately ends up writing to O'Sullivan and said, "I have now exhausted all avenues of complaint.
Yes.
So I'm coming to you with this complaint."
Yeah.
Is that still a rife? In other words, is that how Mr. O'Sullivan perhaps still not influences, but he comes to law enforcement agencies with allegations made by people which he requires to be investigated?
Well, yeah, besides the weird and wonderful ideas he has, sometimes he comes with solid stuff. So it's not worthwhile ignoring him totally or not engaging with him, because he's got knowledge and people trust him because he does something. The biggest problem in South Africa is, public confidence in the criminal justice system. And if the criminal justice system fails them, they will go to a civilian like Paul O'Sullivan and get the respite they require there. So I think we must rather look at ourselves in that. Because otherwise, there wouldn't be a need for a person to use his own energy and resources chasing after police criminals.
Now, are you aware, in the case of General Phahlane, the two matters that are before the court, before the High Court?
Yeah.
So it's taken very seriously.
Yeah.
Of forensic investigations and the Auditor General's report in some of these matters, which of course have nothing to do with Mr. O'Sullivan?
I'm not au fait with all the details of those investigations. Like I said, I was out of IPID at the latter half of those investigations, but I will assume whilst he might have lit the fuse, he didn't set the charge. The charge was there by the wrongdoing already, and no one wanted to look. And by him lighting the fuse, it's forced people to look on a number of cases. It's also given some confidence that something will be done to change the things around. I mean, at the moment, the country is reeling from what looks like an ineffective criminal justice system. And I think everyone needs to address it, or else people will lose hope.
Okay.
And when people lose hope, there's another important thing I'm going to say is related to corruption. In the role play, the modus operandi of regime change ideas, people go for the corrupt. If you are able to catch the corrupt, especially corrupt cops, and you make them realize that you've caught them doing corruption, and I can give a long thing, but I don't think maybe this is the committee for it. It's a Joint Standing Committee on Intelligence. What is at play at present? We're in the middle of a situation where the playbook has been launched. When other people see us, even here fighting, they're looking for weakness, which one to use. If that one's corrupt. Now, similarly, people like Phahlane look at for the Cedric in Kabindes. But the bigger powers who have ideas about us, who want to control us, and they don't like it. And they set games in play. So it's like name a few people, label them, put sanctions on them and start with sanctions, and then there's a scarcity of a certain resource, and then people have to use corruption to get the resource, whatever it is, and then they get caught doing corruption. And then you can exploit them, you can extort them because you have them. And when the bigger move is made, the people look the other way or go home, take the uniforms off and go home. And if you a law enforcement official and you can be bought, who's to stop? Who's going to buy you?
Okay.
So that's,
I only have 10 minutes.
sorry, sir.
Can I ask about Mr. Nkabinde?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Nkabinde testified here that he had been in IPID,
Yeah.
left IPID, and then General Konazi testified and said he was out of a job.
Yeah.
He said no, they were good friends, and he found him a job at a security company.
Yes.
And this was in the context of us asking, what qualifications did you have to become the chief of staff of the Minister of Police?
Yeah, yeah.
When did you first become aware that he was the chief of staff for the Minister of Police, in this case, Minister Mkhunu?
I think it was already done, but unfortunately, I had warned Minister Mkhunu previously, before he was appointed, that the guy is not to be trusted. I said to him long ago after the visit to Mpangeni, but he said, yeah, we must talk. But usually that means, hey, I'm busy now, I've got no time. So it's okay. But I think it was Honorable Kosano who asked Nkabinde, did you also phone Leon Mbangwa to find out what entails the job of a chief of staff? Now, who's Leon Mbangwa? Leon Mbangwa is a former chief of staff of Nathi Nhleko, and he's a Zimbabwean. He has illegal ID was throwing around even when he was appointed. And no security clearance. So what is the whole Minister of Police appointing a foreigner with a criminal record as his chief of staff? So chief of staff is a problem. Advisors are a problem also. In one of the cases we had the advisor trying to, and they will always say, no, number one says, the boss says, but they take liberties and they use people's names in vain. So one has to be careful, must be ethically sound people. Integrity testing must be done. And I know you have limited time, sir. I can expand tomorrow when we come on about.
I'm sure there'll be other questions. Thank you, Mr. McBride.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Honorable Chair, Honorable Members.
Thank you so much. I did not want to advocate to dilute the moment. That is why I wanted to know how much time we are going to take with Mr. McBride, because we must thank Advocate Bongiwe Mkhize. Yes. And maybe I must start by thanking you, honorable members. When I said to you that you must contain yourself, and you did exactly that, can you give yourselves a round of applause for that? Yes. Can we now give a round of applause to Advocate Bongiwe Mkhize? And Mr. McBride, we must also thank you for not being impatient with her. Where I was sitting here, I could feel that she was at some point being very incisive. But that is what we say where we come from. But the mother holds the knife by the sharp edge. And we want to thank you so much, Advocate Mkhize. We have said this when Advocate Zikalala was given a chance to lead evidence here, and you were here, you witnessed it when we praised Advocate Mkhwaites. So today you are the one getting the accolades. Women of South Africa, you are brilliant. We want to thank you so much for that attitude. And we want to thank you so much for raising your hands and being counted amongst the citizens who are pursuing excellence in this country. Can we give that round of applause again, honorable members? You say you are you a former freedom fighter or a freedom fighter, Mr. McBride?
Sorry, Chair, I didn't hear that. I thought you had done with me already.
Did you say you are a former freedom fighter or you are a freedom fighter?
Well, freedom is never really achieved. You have to keep protecting it all the time.
Yeah,
From
but
once the basics are
I
put
want
in
you to
place.
respond to my question without being philosophical. Are you a former freedom fighter or a freedom fighter?
Well, I belong to a liberation army that no longer exists. It was disbanded in 93. But someone else took its name, so I don't know what I must say.
Mr. McBride, are you a former freedom fighter or are you a freedom fighter?
So I'm a constitutionalist. I helped establish the constitutional order, a small part I played. So you're making me laugh, and then if I laugh, I'm in trouble.
I want to ask you a question because there are ideals that you fought for, isn't it? Democratic ideals.
Indeed, sir.
And maybe values. And one of them was to see women of South Africa, young African women like Advocate Bongiwe Mkhize being given an opportunity on a platform like this one. Is that correct?
Happy, sir. Completely happy. Thrilled.
Okay. As a liberation veteran, how do you feel to see opportunities like this being
See,
given?
we are implementing what we set out to do.
Does it give you pride?
Absolutely.
You must tell her and say,
No, I've told you already.
and say this is what we fought for.
This is what we fought for, but it's only a small part I played. You're good on your own, in your own ability. You don't need my praise. You know what you can do. But I still say, Malibongwe.
Thank you so much. You see, you're spoken like a true revolutionary.
Can I laugh now?
Okay. Honorable members, please listen to this. We have come to the end of presentation of evidence. And once again, we thank Advocate Bongiwe Mkhize under the stewardship of Advocate Arendse. He has whispered to me one day that, Soviet, listen here, I have given many young Africans an opportunity to work with me, and for that we must give you credit, Advocate Arendse. For you to present 3 Black African females before this parliament is no mean feat, and we want to thank you so much for that. And thank you so much, Mr. Robert John McBride, for your presentations.